In the lymphatic system, the anatomy part. In brief, because in the second year in the heme and immune block, you will be discussing, you will be, studying the all detailed part of the lymphatic system. So this is just a introductory. So these are the objectives. The outline, the formation, and the various components of the lymphatic system, and what are the differences between the blood and the lymphatic capillaries. Okay. So how the lymphatic system is organized in our body, and how does it work? So we will. This is it is sort of introductory chapter. So we will try to learn something related to this our lymphatic system. Okay. So what is happening inside the body? We have a circulatory system, and this circulatory system, it's constantly pushing the blood from the heart towards our body organs. In the body organs, we have tissues. We have tissues made up of cells. So there is constantly exchange of material between the blood and these cells is taking place. So you can see the heart is pumping the blood. Okay, then heart break. This is arterial system taking the blood towards the organs. Then it breaks into arterioles. Then it breaks into capillaries. Then capillaries unite again to form venules, then veins, and ultimately it is going back to your heart. So it is a closed system. It is a closed system in which the blood is flowing towards the periphery, and from the periphery, the venous blood, the impure blood, turns back towards the heart. So it is a closed system. But you can see this is the site of your tissue or organs. Okay. So the exchange of the material is taking place between the capillaries and the cells or tissues, you can call. Okay. So what is happening? The fluid from the capillaries is constantly coming out, and it occupies the extracellular space in the form of interstitial fluid. Okay. So, but most of this fluid, which is coming out from the capillaries, it returns back to your venules, then veins, and comes into the circulatory system and back to the heart. But some part of the extracellular fluid, which is leaking out from the capillaries, is left behind. Okay. So it creates its own path. It does not involve these blood vessels. It creates its own path, and through this path, on its way back to the heart, okay, it counters so many of, you can see the round, the bean-shaped lymphoid structure. These are the lymph nodes. So this fluid, through its path, it encounters these lymph nodes, and then from the lymph nodes to the large lymph nodes, large sac, then ultimately these channels becomes large, and ultimately they will open again they will drain again into the heart. So this whole system, which is accessory to this closed circulatory system, this is your lymphatic system. Okay. So your most of the blood reaches the tissue through the arterial system, and normally the most of the waste is drained by your venous system. Okay. But the large molecules such as fat, they are drained by lymphatic system through this channel. Okay. And this fluid which is being taken by this lymphatic system, this is known as lymph. It is a clear fluid, colorless, clear fluid like plasma, and it ultimately it drains into the big veins, and through the big veins it goes back to the heart. Okay. So the main function of the lymphatic system is to drain out this extracellular fluid. If this fluid keeps on collecting, then this will lead to edema, and edema can cause further consequences. Okay. So our lymphatic system, which is distributed in almost all parts of your body, it acts to bring back the this extracellular fluid back to into your circulatory system. Is it clear? So what are the main functions of lymphatic system? So it acts as a filter for your tissue fluid. Okay. So tissue fluid will pass through these channels, the lymphatic system, and it will get filtered. Okay. It will, what it does, it removes the insoluble molecules, the large molecules, the pathogens, the waste products, okay, back to the heart. And it also, let's see, you can see, it converts them, the insoluble and large molecules, into soluble and small molecules. And it makes this extracellular fluid or the tissue fluid completely sterile. And this system also contains immune cells. The lymphocytes are there, macrophages are there, WBCs are there. These cells, they are part of your immune system. So they also produce antibodies, and they also contain the cytotoxic T cells. Okay, so your immune system is also there to control the pathogens, the harmful substances which are running through this lymphatic system. So it has both function. It provides immunity against the pathogen, and it also converts the large molecules into the small molecules, and it also helps in the absorption of the large molecules from your GIT tract, from the gastrointestinal tract. And it also removes the excess extracellular fluid from all over the body and brings back them into the circulatory system. So these are the major functions of your lymphatic system. But in some parts of our body, this lymphatic system is absent. The lymph is absent, like your brain and the spinal cord. The avascular structures, which are dependent on the diffusion from the nearby blood for their nutrition, like cartilage, hairs, nails. The bone marrow, it also doesn't have any fluid. This lymph, the eyeball, your inner ear. So these structures, they are devoid of any lymph. So what are the parts of your lymphatic system? In the lymphatic system, you have primary lymphoid organ and secondary lymphoid organs. So primary lymphoid organs are those where there is constantly production of your immune cells, or they are being activated, like your bone marrow, your thymus. Okay, so bone marrow is directly involved in production of the WBCs, your immune cells. And these immune cells, especially the lymphocytes, they pass the T lymphocytes, they go to your thymus, and they get activated over there. Okay, they get matured in the thymus. So your thymus and this bone marrow, they are your primary lymphoid organs, and remaining all organs like lymph nodes, spleen, the mucosa associated lymphoid structures, these all are secondary lymphoid structures. Okay, so you have lymph nodes, spleen, thymus, the mucosa associated lymphoid structures. They all are examples of the lymphoid structures, lymphoid tissue. But this mucosa associated lymphoid structure, the MALT, they are located in the submucosal layer of the inner lining of your body wall. Okay, like in the mucosa of your, this is called the oral epithelium, your GIT tract, your bronchial mucosa, your laryngeal mucosa. These all areas, they contains the aggregation of these T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes. In some part, they are well organized. So where they are well organized, these cells, lymphocytes, they are well organized. They are called as organized mucosa associated tissue, the O-MALT, organized. And the examples of the organized MALT are your adenoids, the tonsils, okay, which are present along your the respiratory and digestive system, upper part of your digestive system. So these are organized masses of the T cells and the B cells. But in some cases, where like in the GIT, in the lung, in the larynx, they are not so organized. So here they are called as diffuse mucosa associated lymphoid tissue. So malt is again of two categories, the O malt and D malt. Okay. So these tonsils, they are organized in the appendix, they are diffuse. So lymph nodes, it is one of the major, not primary. Yes.
Please, can you repeat the previous slide?
This one?
No, the previous one.
This
Yeah,
one?
this one. Yeah.
Yes. So certain organs in the body, certain parts of the body, they don't
Doctor,
contain. Yes.
Not this one. The next one.
This
Slide
one?
number 6. Slide number 6.
Okay, this one?
Yes.
Okay. So you have primary lymphoid organs and secondary lymphoid organs, or you can say the central and the peripheral lymphoid organs. The primary lymphoid organs are those where your WBCs or the cells of your immune system, they are being constantly produced or being programmed to deal with the antigens, the pathogens. And the primary lymphoid organs are your bone marrow and thymus. And remaining all lymphoid structures, they are secondary, like your lymph nodes, spleen, this mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue. Okay, these all are secondary. So you know where the lymph nodes are located. They are located along the route of the lymphatic vessels. So these lymphatic vessels, which are draining your lymph, they will encounter many lymph nodes before leading into the big veins of your body. Okay, then you have mucosa. In some part, in your bronchial mucosa, in your respiratory mucosa, this GIT tract mucosa, in the mucosa of your oral cavity, the nasal mucosa, you will find aggregation of your these lymphocytes, the T lymphocytes and the B lymphocytes. Okay, in some parts, like around your respiratory upper respiratory tract, in your nasal mucosa or the oral mucosa, this mucosa of your oropharynx, you will find the well-organized masses of lymphoid, or you can see the lymphocytes. These are adenoids and tonsils. Okay, you can easily feel them as a separate entity. You can anatomically differentiate them, feel them. Okay, but in some parts, like in the GIT, in bronchus, these are not so organized. You cannot differentiate them anatomically. You can only see them on histological sections. Okay, so these are diffuse, but these adenoids and tonsils, okay, which are organized masses of these mucosa associated lymphoid disease, they can be felt, they can be differentiated anatomically. Okay, so you have organized mucosa associated lymphoid tissue and you have diffuse mucosa associated tissue. So examples of the organized mucosa associated lymphoid tissue are adenoids, tonsils located in your nasopharynx and the oropharynx. And the examples of the diffuse mucosa associated lymphoid tissue are your GALT, the gut associated, the bronchial associated, the laryngeal associated. These all are diffuse masses of the mucosa associated lymphoid tissue. Is it clear?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
So one of the major lymphoid organs is your lymph node. So you can see it is located all over your body. Okay. So these are the lymphatic vessels, small lymphatic vessels. They will pass through these lymph nodes, and these lymphatic vessels will become subsequently bigger and bigger, and ultimately they will open into the big veins of your neck. And through these big veins of the neck, the lymph come back to your circulatory system in the heart. So what is lymph node? It is a lymphoid tissue aggregation that enters the course of lymphatics. So it is located along the course of lymphatic vessels. Okay, and it tends to and it is located in collection, in groups along the course of these lymphatic vessels. Okay, And what is the function of the lymph nodes? As already described, it filters the lymph, it kills the pathogens, and it prevents them from entering your bloodstream. Because these lymph nodes, they are rich in macrophages, T lymphocytes, B lymphocytes. Okay, so these cells will act and they will kill the pathogen in this lymph and make the lymph sterile, so that no pathogen get access to your main bloodstream. And also, it is not involved in production of the lymphocytes, especially what is happening whenever these lymphocytes, they encounter any pathogen, they proliferate, they multiply more and more and more so the number of the lymphocytes increases. So it is not actually involved in production. The production is happening in your bone marrow. In lymphocytes, they only proliferate, they multiply to become more and more in number to encounter the pathogen. So if you see the structure of your lymph node, it has a convex side and it has one concave side. Okay, so from the convex side, you can see many lymphatic vessels are coming and bringing your lymph, the extracellular fluid. So extracellular fluid or your lymph enters from the convex side. So these vessels, they are known as afferent lymphatic vessels. So these are afferent lymphatics. And from the concave side, so you have many lymphatic vessels, afferent. Efferent are few, and they leave through this concave side. So this concave side is termed as hilum. So from the hilum, few efferent. Efferent means it will take away the lymphatics, the lymph which has entered into the substance of your lymph node towards heart. So efferent, it has afferent, which will bring in the lymph, and it has got efferent lymphatic channels or vessels which will take the lymph from the lymph nodes towards the heart. Okay, so this is hilum, these are the lymphatic vessels, and in the substance of the lymph node you have the cells of immune system which will fight against the pathogen. Okay, so in this manner it will filter your lymph. So your lymph nodes are in the examination of, or the biopsy of the lymph node is done to stage the cancer. What is the staging for the staging of the cancer? Okay, so you have TNM staging. Okay, so in the N is for nodes. In NX, regional lymph nodes cannot be accessed. In NO, no regional lymph node metastasis. N1, so these are different staging. It is not of your concern that much. Okay, so the lymph node biopsy is done for staging of your for staging the advancement of the cancers. Now, thymus gland, it is one of the primary lymphoid organ. It is the site where your T cells are programmed, where your T cells they get matured to fight against any antigen. So programming of your T lymphocytes, it takes place in the thymus. So it is present in the children till puberty. After puberty, it undergoes atrophy. It becomes small and small, and bulk of this thymus, it gets replaced by adipose tissues. And it functions as a T cell academy. So what is happening in the academy? You are being trained. Okay, so here this thymus acts as a T cell academy. The T cells get training over here. So your innate immunity, your adaptive immunity, it develops here in the thymus. Okay, so your T cells are programmed to fight against different kind of antigen in thymus. Then you have Walden's ring. So this Walden's ring, it is an example of organized mucosa associated lymphoid organ or tissue. Okay, so you can see they are lymphoid tissue at the entry of both digestive and your respiratory tract. So at the entry, because because from the this entry site is very critical, because because these are the large opening, the nasal cavity opening or the oral cavity, oral vestibule or nasal vestibule, they are large opening, and they can invite the pathogens very easily from these openings. Okay, so these openings, they are guarded by these organized masses of lymphoid structures, so you can easily feel them, you can anatomically differentiate them. So these are organized mucosa associated lymphoid tissue. So how it is formed, you can see it is located in the form of a ring, so that's why it is called as Waldeyer ring. So in the nasopharynx, you have pharyngeal tonsils, also known as adenoids. You have two tubal tonsils. You have two palatine tonsils in the oropharynx over. So these are your palatine tonsils. Then you have one located along the undersurface of the tongue. That is your lingual tonsils. So you have one pharyngeal, one lingual, two tubal, and two palatine tonsils. Okay, located at the entry point of your the oral and respiratory tract to take on any pathogen entering through these gates. Okay, so this is your Walde's ring. So this Walde's ring is very important for your exams. So you have to memorize all these parts, all these tonsils related with the Walde's ring. Okay. So these are different grading of the tonsillitis. So you can see this is your palatine tonsils. Okay, over here you can see. So these palatine tonsils, it is enclosed by two folds. One folds from here, palatoglossal, and one folds behind, palatopharyngeal. So in between the two folds, you have these palatine tonsils, and you can see this opening from the oral cavity into the oropharynx. So this opening is known as oropharyngeal isthmus. So amount of the space occupied these tonsils decides the grading of tonsils. Like you can see in grade 4, you can see it is 100% occupied. In this 75% occupied. In this 50%, here less than 25%. So less than 25%, grade 1. 25 to 50, grade 2. 50 to 75, grade 3. 75 to 100, grade 4. So this is how the grading of the tonsillitis is being done. So lymphatic vessels or lymphatic channels, which are taking your lymph back towards the heart, and these are the lymphatic vessels. Okay, so they start as lymphatic capillaries. So they start as the lymphatic capillaries. There are many capillaries. They come from different sites to form lymphatic vessels, and finally these large lymphatic vessels, they will open into either a right lymphatic duct or thoracic duct. And these right lymphatic ducts and thoracic ducts, they will open into the big veins of your neck, like brachiocephalic vein, subclavian vein. Okay, so these are the big veins of your neck. So this right lymphatic duct or thoracic duct will open into these big veins of your neck. But you can see the fatty substances from your food, they get absorbed from the small intestine. Okay, so these fat, they are mainly absorbed in your lymph. Okay, so these fatty substances, they go back to your circulatory system via the lymph. Okay, so this lymph from the intestine, it is white in color because of the large amount of the fat, and it is called as chyle due to its high content of fat. And the small lymphatic vessels which absorb these chyle, these are known as lacteals. So lacteals are same, the small lymphatic vessels absorbing the fat from your digestive part. So if you see, you have right lymphatic duct, you have left lymphatic duct. Okay, so as I told you initially, these lymphatic channels, they start as very small capillaries. Then these capillaries from all over the sides, they unite and as they move towards the heart, they become bigger and bigger. Okay, so ultimately you can see this is your right upper limb, this is your right half of your thorax, right neck, right half of your head and neck, head and face, you can see. So this, the lymphatics live from all these parts. Okay, they will all open into this right lymphatic duct, But before right lymphatic duct is formed, what is happening? The lymphatic channels from the this right upper limb, they form right subclavian trunk, and the lymphatics from right side of your face, right side of the neck, they form right jugular trunk. So this right jugular trunk and right subclavian trunk, they both unite to form right lymphatic duct. Then this right lymphatic duct will open at the junction of, this is your right jugular vein, this is your right subclavian vein. So this is the junction where these two veins unite to form the right brachiocephalic vein. Okay, so at the junction of these two veins, your right lymphatic duct will open. Okay, is it clear? So all the lymphatics from the right upper limb, ultimately it will form right subclavian duct. Okay, right subclavian trunk, and the lymphatics from your head and right side, right half of your face, right half of your neck, okay, it will form your right jugular trunk, and these two trunks will unite to form right lymphatic duct, which will open at the junction of right subclavian and right jugular vein. On the left side, the same thing is happening, but the lymphatics from your abdomen, from your both limbs, okay, it will travel through a duct. This duct you can see here, this is your thoracic duct, which starts in the upper part of your abdomen, then it travels through your thorax, ultimately it turns on the left, okay, and ultimately it will open into open at the junction of the left jugular vein and the left subclavian vein. So this is your thoracic duct. So in the so the way your right lymphatic duct is formed, in the same manner your left lymphatic duct is also formed. But this left lymphatic duct, it will not open directly at the junction of the left jugular and left subclavian vein. And instead of that, it will open into the thoracic duct, which is bringing the lymphatics from your abdomen, from your limbs, from your pelvic viscera, from your perineal region, all region. Okay. So your thoracic duct, if you see, it is draining all the lymphatics into the circulatory system from the whole part of the body, except the right half of your face, the right half of your neck, the right half of your thorax, and right upper limb. So apart from this region which is darker in color, the lymphatics from the all remaining areas of the body, they will go into the thoracic duct ultimately. Okay, then thoracic will duct open into the left brachiocephalic vein over here. So you can see the thoracic duct, it starts in the, so this is cisterna chyli. Okay, so all the lymphatics from the abdomen, from the lower limb, the perineal region, the pelvic viscera, it will come into this bag located in upper part of your abdominal cavity. Okay, so this is a cisterna chyli. The cisterna, upper end of the cisterna chyli, it will become a duct, and it will continue. It will pierce the diaphragm, enter your thoracic cavity, then it will reach your neck, and ultimately it will turn on the left side, and it will open at the junction of the left internal jugular and left subclavian vein. So this is your thoracic duct. So this thoracic duct, it's carrying the lymph from all parts of the body except the right upper limb, the right half of the thorax, the right half of the neck, and the right half of the face. So this is the largest lymphatic vessels draining most part of the body. Okay, and it starts in the abdomen in the form of a sac, that is cisterna chyli, and it is beaded in appearance. It contains many walls. It ascends in the thorax on left side of the aorta. Okay, then it ends into the left brachiocephalic vein. Left brachiocephalic vein. So what are the tributaries for the thoracic duct or the left lymph duct? It drains lymphatic from whole of the body except right side of the head, neck, right upper limb, right lung, right thoracic wall, right half of the heart, and convex surface of your liver. So you can see this is the area which is darker. It is all drained by your thoracic duct except this region, which is drained by right lymphatic duct into the right brachiocephalic vein. So if there is any obstruction of the lymph flow, then the lymph vessels get inflamed, called as lymphadenitis. And this, if there is inflammation of the lymph nodes because of the obstruction in the efferent lymphatic channels, it can lead to lymphadenitis. Okay, so elephantiasis is one of the example of the lymphadenitis. Okay. So what are the differences between the blood and lymphatic capillaries? So you can see here, this is the arteriole breaking into the capillaries, then capillaries ending into the venules. The venules unite to form the vein. Okay, the vein will take the blood back to the heart. So exchange between the tissue and the blood, is at the level of capillaries. Okay, so when the fluid leaks out of the capillaries into the extracellular space, this becomes interstitial fluid, and this interstitial fluid then it gets absorbed by the lymphatic capillaries. So you can see these lymph capillaries, their end is blind. They are blind-ended. They are not open. They are blind-ended. Okay. And these lymph capillaries, they are bigger than the blood capillaries. Blood capillaries are smaller than the lymph capillaries. Then lymph capillaries, you can see many lymph capillaries are uniting. Then ultimately they will form the lymphatic vessels. Then big lymphatic vessels are formed. So you can see what are the differences. It has been tabulated over here. The blood capillaries, they carry blood, but the lymph capillaries, they carry lymph. And blood capillaries, they are more superficial in skin and mucous membrane, while the lymph capillaries, they are located deep. And these blood capillaries, they start as branches of the arterioles, and these lymph capillaries, they are blind-ended. They start as lymph capillaries, blind-ended. And they are connected with venules, and these lymphatic capillaries, they are connected with the bigger lymphatic vessels. The diameter remains uniform, the capillaries throughout, but lymph capillaries, their diameter is not uniform. Initially, it is very small. Later on, it becomes bigger and bigger. The lumen is patent. Lumen remains intact, while the lumen in the lymph capillaries, it is collapsed. The endothelium in the blood capillaries is fenestrated, but here it is not fenestrated in the case of lymph capillaries. And the basement membrane is lacking in the lymph capillaries. So in the wall of the lymph capillaries, you will find only the endothelial cells, which are not resting on the basement membrane. But in the blood capillaries, you will find the few endothelial cells which are resting on a basement membrane. But the bigger lymphatic vessels, they contain these endothelial cells, they contain the smooth muscles, they contain adventitia also. But these small lymph capillaries, they don't contain these adventitia and the smooth muscle part. The endothelial cells, they are irregularly present, and they are connected by a button-like, the junctional complex, which allows even the large particles to pass through it, to get absorbed into the lumen of lymph capillaries. So these are the references. So this is just an introductory, chapter in this block. The details will be covered in the human immune block, which you will be studying in the next year. So if you have any query, any question, you can ask.
Thank you, Doctor.
Yes?
Thank you, all clear.
Let me take the attendance.
Thank you, Doctor.